That's right. I mean, this is a bit of a gamble by the president, essentially saying, okay, we're going to try to put this country back on its feet economically. I mean, Syria has been obviously in a shambles for a long time, both because of civil war, the Islamic State, and then also sanctions dating back many, many years, really crippling U.S. economic sanctions. So President Bashar al-Assad fled the country as the civil war continued. You now have this new interim leader, Ahmed al-Shara. He met with President Trump in May in Saudi Arabia, and there's a real desire just to see what can happen here. Big question, what are they actually able to achieve economically? But I think what you're seeing is part of the president's philosophy where he's not a huge fan of sanctions. He'd like to see them lifted, and he's willing to take a little bit of a gamble.
But of course, he does leave sanctions on so many people, right? I mean, Bashar al-Assad isn't running Syria anymore. But who is running Syria? If not anyone who is linked to Bashar al-Assad, human rights abusers, drug traffickers, anyone linked to chemical weapons activities, anyone in ISIS or its affiliates, anyone who's considered an Iranian proxy. I mean, there's a long list of people that are still sanctioned. Are the people who are running Syria now absolutely not
connected, or like,
yeah,
right? I mean, so I think there are a couple of things going on here. One is, as you say, that's all very true. There are tons of sanctions in place. There are also congressional sanctions in place that were passed, by Congress. They're a law, and those have not been repealed. You also have a lot of restrictions around Syria as a state sponsor of terrorism. That designation has not been lifted. This group that the interim president led was designated a foreign terrorist organization too. So, you may not see much of an impact. However, in some ways, it's almost more of a signaling thing, because what you also saw several weeks ago was the Treasury Department essentially released this. It's called a general license, but it's basically a blanket waiver. Listen, if you want to do business in Syria, you can do that, and you don't have to fear punishment. So it's more like giving the green light. That they've taken some of the sanctions off the table, but more broadly, they have said, okay, hey, listen, if you do this business, we're not going to punish you. The other thing that it really does is it sends a signal to aid groups and humanitarian organizations and stuff like that. If they want to do work in Syria, if they want to move in and cooperate with the government, they can do so with less fear of punishment from the U.S., where they're not going to have their assets seized or their bank accounts frozen. They can make payments and things like that. So I would say describe it as sort of a tentative step to get the gears of the Syrian economy turning once again, but very, very early days still.